Auto insurance all seems the same.
Hello, beloved. Had to make a run. Almost didn't make it back. I am so sorry about that. Let's get us together. It has been one busy day, but I'm cool. I am excited, even though we got to deal with some tough things tonight. This is our seventh session in this series. Our seventh. I've been trying to close it out, but I'm just going to stop saying that, right? Because things keep happening. But nevertheless, before I forget, I will not be won't be live next Monday. I will be on the road. But nevertheless, welcome to the Man Cave. Glad that you are here. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to learn some things tonight that will help you become what I'm always striving to do, be the smartest person in the room as it pertains to these topics. All right? So we're not gonna waste any time tonight because there's plenty of ground to cover. We are going to dive right in. So just want, in the way of announcement, to let you know that I am on TikTok. I load video shorts there during the week. Normally it's twice a week. Also on YouTube, and asking you to like and subscribe. I need as many likes and subscriptions as I can get. The number is growing, but need more. Need it to be shared more. I want to have all of the influence that I can get so that people learn about these things. As always, this is adult story time, study time. It's not for the kids, especially tonight. I know that this video is going to have some mature content tags put on it. I do that anyway in terms of labeling that the videos are not for kids, but this one especially, there's some things I'm going to show you that if you've got, I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but if you're hesitant to see certain things, I would suggest that you, when I warn you, to turn away for a moment, because these things are very graphic. So again, this is number 7. And we're talking about the Israel-Palestine conflict. which has been going on now since October the 7th, since that incident, but actually has been going on since 1947, specifically 1948. So let me give you a piece of scripture that we should go by. We kind of use this as a theme for tonight. The Bible says, Jesus is speaking, he says, a new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another. Just as he has loved us, we should love each other. Love doesn't have anything to do with what we call race. If you watched my videos, you know I hate that. I'd rather hear another four-letter cuss word than to hear the word race. It was created for division. But regardless of, so that I can speak in a modern vernacular, race, regardless of where you're from, what language you speak, or what religion you're in, we are all supposed to love one another. Jesus said, by this shall all men know that you are my disciples, that you're my followers, if you love one another. That's not a suggestion, right? It's a command. All right. So I'm going to go through this first part kind of fast because I've already talked about this. And so I just want to, you can watch some of the earlier videos and you can get this information. Okay. We started off in this conversation, in this series, and in other ways, we started off talking about who are the Ashkenazi Jews. Now, I've had people challenge me on YouTube talking about all the different groups that are there, but this is the group that's in charge in Israel. This is the group that is making decisions for everybody else. This is the group that the leaders come from. This is the group that went through the Holocaust and were the original ones to come to Israel before others started trying to come after 1948. Not that that's when the process began, but it is when they came in mass. So, yeah, that's who's in charge. And so what we've been taking a look at, the question that we've been asking is, who are they? And I've shown you very quickly, man, I don't want to get caught up in this, but I have so many times on my videos, people are asking questions that I've already answered in other places, and especially when I'm doing a video short, and I don't know how to resolve that without going over everything in every single video. I can't do that. So anyway, it's my own frustration and challenge. But Genesis chapter 10, verses 1 through 3, specifically verse 3, declares that the Ashkenaz by name descend from Japheth, or as some say, Japheth. To be a Semite, you have to descend from Shem. And in the table of nations, it is very clear that they do not. They are also mentioned by name in other places in Scripture. Jeremiah 51:27 not only mentions them by name, but locates them already in Europe. They don't descend from Shem, which takes care of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the Exodus, David, Solomon, all of that. And I'm trained to do research, but this stuff isn't hard to find. We have to get past Genesis chapter 10, verse 3. If you can get past that, then we can have a conversation. But as I keep saying, and I actually did a short series on that, the Bible and science agree. And so we have DNA evidence that proves that the people that are in charge in Israel currently, Benjamin Netanyahu, that they don't descend from Jesus. They don't have Hebrew blood. John Hopkins did a genetic study. John Hopkins, we trust John Hopkins, don't we? This isn't the only evidence that I have. I've shared other evidence in the past, but nevertheless, 97.5% of Judaics, living in Israel have absolutely no ancient Hebrew DNA and are therefore not Semites and have no ancient blood ties to the land of Palestine at all, whereas 80% of Palestinians carry ancient Hebrew DNA, thus are real Semites. And again, there's other, if you go to my YouTube channel, you will find other pieces of documented research that has been done that proves that they are not connected. And the question that I asked during that series, well, then who is? And I go into detail about the Limba tribe, who have been DNA tested, who not only have blood dating back to the Levitical priesthood, to the Hebrews, but also to the Levitical priesthood. Got ahead of myself just a little bit there. The Falasha, Beta Israel, Ethiopian Jews. About 150,000 of them are currently living in Israel. They put them in the slums and I've seen some of them in the military recently. The Nigerian Jews. Well, I did a whole series on that. I'm sorry. I don't have time to go back over that. But the point is yeah, we do know who the real ones are. We do know who the real ones are. So let's go a little bit further. Someone asked me, probably shouldn't spend too much time on this, talking about the Balfour Declaration in 1917. Lord Arthur James Balfour, British Foreign Secretary, when he talked about giving Israel its own settlement. And so the person was saying that, I must not know what I'm talking about because there was already a process. And I was nice. But basically, you are telling me that someone that colonized the land is deciding who they get to give the land to when it's not their homeland. Just, come on. But that process, through a man by the name of Theodore Herzl, who I've also talked about, some of this started back in the late 1800s. But as I just showed you in brief, these aren't the original Hebrews that the British or anybody else is trying to give this land. It's not theirs. They were never there. In the diaspora that Jesus spoke of in Matthew 24, that he talked about, which took place in AD 70, when people left Jerusalem because of the persecution that occurred there, it's not the Ashkenaz that were leaving. They were in Europe. Let me keep it moving. So just look this article up. This leads into an understanding of what happened. Germany's decimated. The Ashkenaz don't have a way to, their towns have been leveled, all of that, and they didn't want to stay. 100,000 of them tried to come in a boat to Jerusalem and get turned away by the British, who somebody's trying to tell them about in 1917. The British are actually the ones that turned them away. And eventually, they end up in that land through something that was called the Nakba, where they literally put 750,000 Palestinians out of their homes. As I've said before, like the 275 loop here in Cincinnati, you may have a circle freeway in your city where you're, viewing this now, but just imagine everybody within that loop being displaced with nowhere to go. Okay, that's what happened. Let's watch this video. I'm going to stick with you with some of these videos tonight, especially when we get to the ones that I really got to warn you. And we'll talk about this a bit on the other side. If I can get it to obey me.
That Palestinians have a right to return? Do you believe that I, as a Palestinian whose father is from Haifa, left in 1948, was kicked out during the Nakba, does he have a right to return? And do I, you, Daniel Levy?
I do not think that as someone who never came from that part of the world, my family escaped, one on my mother's side escaped the Holocaust, on my father's side from Eastern Europe. How can I possibly have the right to go and live there if someone indigenous to that land, whose family was driven from there, does not have that right?
Do you believe that
Good point, right? But, and this stat could be off because we're now bombing Rafah, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but over 30,000 Palestinians have been killed. And as I've said before, Hamas only has 30,000 soldiers. And you are going to see some carpet bombing, targeting. And I have talked about in the past where leaders have said that all of Palestine is to blame for October 7th. It is genocide. So let's talk about this. I mentioned this last week. So the New York Times is getting raked over the coals because someone that was sent to do some research ended up finding out one of the catalysts that got us in this mess of killing all of these innocent men, women, and children. One of the things that got us involved in this was the narrative that many of the women had been raped. That's always it should be something that really upsets us, but it's got to be true. So there was research, and I went into more detail this last week. But the research that was done as this lady went through trying to find evidence, she's in Israel, going to different locations, and she found zero, not some, zero incidents of people that women had been sexually assaulted. And there's all kinds of stories that was coming out of Israel about that. And she did deep exploration and found out that she couldn't find it. I'm just putting these up so you can read them later. I'm not going to go through them. I'm trying to move on to some other things, but just wanting you to know that one of the things that inspired, that got America and everybody else on board were these horrific stories of a woman having a baby cut out of her, all of that. And even people that were there telling these stories, the timelines didn't fit. They were lying on the spot. So, what is this really all about? Let's take a look at this. We'll talk on the other side.
I just watched something that answers every question about why America, the UK, and France are so staunchly in support of Israel and what it's doing right now. And of course, it has to do with money, obviously. But not what we would have thought of. I think we all would have assumed it was oil. Turns out it's not. Turns out this is what it's all about. This is the Suez Canal. This is owned by Egypt. The Suez Canal makes about $9 billion a year. And where does that $9 billion go to? It goes to Egypt. Egypt nationalized the canal, so it makes all the profit. So who's not collecting on this are the Americans, the British, and the French, and the Israelis. They want to change that. Enter the Ben Gurion Canal Project over here. This is what's happening right now in the Middle East. What we're seeing on TV is all a ploy. It's all about granting access for this canal. The American and Israeli government plan on nuking this land over here to build a canal. They're going to use this land because that land is built out of a rocky terrain, whereas the Suez Canal is built on more of a sandy terrain. By digging through a rockier ground, they would have more likelihood to have a wider canal, allowing two ships to pass each other at the same time, as opposed to one ship, which is presently happening in the Suez Canal. And where do you think that canal empties? Not just in the Mediterranean Sea. The Ben Gurion Canal would empty right in northern Gaza. The Ben Gurion Canal would empty into the Mediterranean at the northern point of Gaza. Northern Gaza. So all we're seeing here, ethnic cleansing, genocide, forcing all of the Palestinians into the south of Gaza. It's all to build this canal. I just watched something.
Genocide. Want to know how to pray? Pray for peace and pray for the safety of the people that have to deal with this, because and it's happening in real time right before our eyes, that these people are being killed for money, for profit. And the United States, France, Great Britain, and Israel are in bed with each other to make this happen. There at the map, the orange part of the map is northern Gaza. The Palestinians were told, if you go to southern Gaza, it's all good. But they were bombing them as they tried to go there. Now, you look at the map, in the corner at the end of that yellow is Rafah. They've bombed them all the way there. And now they're bombing Rafah. Let me give you a little bit of a better look at this. A little closer. The Rafah crossing, that's where the aid would come in to help these starving people, get medical supplies in. I mean, there are trucks that are just waiting to come in and help. I hope you're strapped in, because I'm going to show you some things that are going to blow you away in just a second. But Israel was threatening to bomb that area, not to bomb Egypt. Now we got a different kind of war. But they're bombing right on the border. What a mess. Because they want these people dead. What's the Hamas issue amongst children? I showed you a video that talked about, it showed a woman with a 5-year-old whose hand she was holding. She was a school teacher holding a white flag. And they shot her. I showed you the actual video. With some other Palestinians that had family inside the city where it's being bombed, and they tried to go in the city and a sniper killed one of them. It was a 3-year-old. You can tell that's not an adult. Who was shot by a sniper. Family wants to get him and bring him to safety. They're hiding behind a building, a barrier. And as he's reaching and moving, it's clear that he's alive. They kill him. A 3-year-old. It's heart-wrenching. I'm going to try to keep my composure while I'm teaching you this, but it is heart-wrenching. All right. I want to warn you again. It's getting ready to get live from this point forward. So what do? If you want to eliminate these folks, you start bombing everything. There are towns that have been leveled. There's no Hamas there. There are hospitals that they've bombed because they said that Hamas is in tunnels under the hospital. So, okay, Cincinnatians, my brother works at University Hospital. Do you mean to tell me if there's enemy in the basement, that's okay to blow him up and all of the other patients that are in University Hospital in order to get to the enemy that you may or may not hit because they're possibly deep in time? It doesn't. Why am I even finishing that statement? It's ridiculous to even fathom that somehow that makes sense. Ain't no God in that nowhere. Nowhere. Just blowing stuff up, blowing up their cities, all of that. And creating a crisis. Let's watch this. Talk to you on the other side.
Benoit is the executive director of MSF USA, which is also known as Doctors Without Borders. Avril, talk to us about how dire the situation is on the ground in Rafah, generally speaking.
Well, Liliana, it's terrifying for everyone, and we are supporting several hospitals in that Rafah area, 4 hospitals, a couple of clinics, a couple of health posts. And so we're seeing the surge of not only injured people over the last 4 months and a lot of other people trying to seek refuge in these hospitals, but around it, this threat of the full-scale ground invasion is filling people with a kind of terror that we haven't seen before, even with all the tanks and the artillery and the fighter jets and the sniper fire that people have had to flee over the last months over and over again to reach the one place that seemed to be the one that Israeli authorities were saying would not be targeted and was the place to go. And so once again, we see clearly that no place in Gaza, there is nowhere for people to go.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen that anxiety, that frustration, that desperation, really, from the refugees in interviews done by our producer in Gaza, Marwan Al Ghul. You have to wonder. I mean, if people are somewhat safe, you can't really say they're safe there. That's where aid is getting to them too. What kind of aid is actually getting into Rafah that then might be even complicated further if they have to go somewhere else?
Well, I'll tell you, even with this looming threat of the full-scale ground invasion, a lot of activities of scale up that you would normally be trying to do at this time have stopped. Movements are on hold. You have over 1,000 trucks that are reported to be just filled with aid supplies, life-saving supplies at that Rafah crossing, unable to enter Gaza right now. You have a lot of aid workers and including medical staff that are having difficulty moving from place to place. Ambulances, imagine the risks of that. And in one of the areas in Khan Yunis, Nasser Hospital is one of the hospitals we've been supporting. And it's horrific what's happening around there. People are being shot while they're already injured trying to reach the hospital. And even inside the hospital, medical staff have been killed and injured while trying to attend to patients.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit more about those medical needs that your teams there are witnessing or experiencing.
Well, as you know, the conditions of life are absolutely deplorable. We know that there's a shortage of food. And so in Rafah, for example, there's said to be only a couple of days left of food for the population. And that's why the trucks coming in with the supplies are so important. And so people are dehydrated also over the months from drinking insufficient water. There isn't enough clean water. What is available is often brackish. It's dirty. It's giving people diarrhea. In the hospitals, we're seeing people with catastrophic injuries, people who need major surgery with full anesthesia and all the follow-up care to allow them to recover. And, we have severe burns from all the explosions, a lot of children in the hospitals. So the numbers are horrific. We know in addition to the 28,000 reportedly killed that we have roughly 68,000 have been injured over the last 4 months. And even a well-functioning healthcare system, which the Gaza system was not beforehand, would be absolutely buckling under the pressure of all these injured people. And that's certainly what we're seeing now. The aid is nowhere near sufficient. And if anything, we would say next to impossible to deliver properly.
Gosh, and I can't imagine just if the offensive continues, how much more of that need won't be met. Avril Benoit, thank you so much.
Thank you.
68,000 people are wounded. 30,000, over 30,000 now, have been killed. Some of the videos that I'm about to show you are not on American television. Al Jazeera, one of these is from China, another one is from Turkey. Outside of this country, they're showing the depth of this horrific situation. This next video is short, but it's potent. Notice what the reporter says just got hit, and notice that nothing else around it gets hit. And then ask yourself why.
Healthcare facility as well as evacuation zone as we're getting into. Yes, sir. Oh my God! Did you hear that?
Yes, we did.
Oh my God! Oh, that's the hospital. That's the hospital. That's the hospital. Oh my God! Are you guys hearing this?
Yes, we are hearing that, Hani. Are you okay? Are you in a safe place to continue to talk to us?
Wait. No, okay. Oh my God. No. This is really bad. This is bad. Are you guys seeing this?
A hospital in Rafah. Nothing else around it. Gets blown up, gets hit. So it's strategic bombing. Now, they do plenty of carpet bombing. Israel does plenty of carpet bombing with the bombs that we supply them. Now, if you watch my videos, you know that I make sure that I preface certain things if I haven't done full research yet, but I want to throw this out just because I just heard it. But I need about 2 or 3 more sources before I verify it. But my understanding is that Israeli lobbyists, Ashkenaz lobbyists, have already bought in Washington all the support they need. They bought the votes to make sure that they continue to get what they need to commit genocide on these people. They're down, you saw the map. They're down in the corner. They can't go into Egypt. Egypt's not accepting them. So what are they going to do? Go into the Mediterranean? There's nowhere else for them to go, and they're getting bombed anyway. That hospital was in Rafah. You just saw that's why I showed those videos in tandem. You just saw that the doctor was saying the hospitals already can't handle what's going on. And now strategically a hospital gets bombed. Why? Because this is genocide. I showed you a video where an Israeli leader, the lady was already in the West Bank, which is not their territory. They're not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be Palestinian territory. They've already taken their homes. They're taking more and more pieces of land. She is saying that all of Gaza is going to be given to the soldiers that have fought in this battle. And she's saying no Palestinians should be alive. This isn't an opinion of just anybody. This is a leader. That's why The Guardian, Al Jazeera, some of these other sources, you need to be accessing them. The videos speak for themselves. You don't have to worry about whether or not the commentary is accurate. Some of them don't even have commentary. You're just looking at people being decimated that have nothing to do with the conflict. Nothing to do with the conflict. I want to show you something. It doesn't matter if you can't read the words that are on the screen or understand what this man's saying. His anguish is enough. But let me give you this piece. This man is a doctor. He is getting ready. You're not going to see it, so you don't have to shy away for that reason. He has to amputate his daughter's leg with no anesthesia.
هذه بنتي اتصوروا انا بعملها بتبقى رجلها في الدار. ايش اليهود بدهم منا؟ ايش الظلم اللي واقع علينا؟ بنتي بقطع لها رجلها من دون بنش. وين الرحمه؟ وين الانسانيه؟
That's it. Father's anguish because he has to amputate his own daughter's leg who has nothing to do with this conflict. I also showed you a video that there are many Christians in Gaza living in peace amongst the Palestinians. There are many American Christians and American Palestinians that are Christian. Where's the outcry? I showed a picture of a crater where that's all that's left is this crater that I don't even know how you would climb out of it. So they used the biggest munition that they had to blow up a Christian church. No noise. No noise. All right. These videos, as we move to the close, I guess, are hard to watch. But I hope you do, so you understand the depth.
ما حدا بيعرف ايش صار. قاعدين بنلعب والله ما حدا بيعرف كلهم قرايبنا في الدور ست عائلات هنا كل الدار فيها 1000 واحد هنا في المنطقة كلهم استشهدوا.
That video is from China. You're not going to see that on American television. This next video, what I want you to notice, it's short, but there's a couple of things. Follow the cameraman so you understand how close this bombing came to children. I also want you to notice the tents. See, there's no Hamas soldiers that are laying around dead. These are civilians. Hamas, they've got uniforms, y'all. Just watch.
محبة يا بلدنا ايدي بايدي بنبنيها ايدي بايدي بنبنيها فوق الريح نعليها يا الله يا الله يا الله لا اله الا الله لا اله الا الله حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل.
Right where the children were. It's a little deceptive. You see a bomb that has gone off in the distance, but if you follow the cameraman, you realize how close it is. If you take a look at the background behind the children, you realize it's a tent city for refugees. And those tents that were put up by aid groups, many of which have died. Many ambulance drivers, aid workers, doctors, there are plenty of people that have died. Well, that are from outside of Gaza that have come in to help. As of, I believe it was the end of January, don't quote me on this, but we had from October the 7th to the end of January, more reporters trying to bring the news died that in total in that short period of time than had died throughout the year. Now we have reporters that die every year, but just in that short space of time, Hamas isn't killing them. Let's watch this. Very, very graphic. Where do you even take the wounded? Where do you take them? Hospitals are being bombed. You didn't see anybody there with a uniform on. I'm amazed sometimes at some of the stuff that I see on TikTok and other places like that. People just uninformed, but have already chosen a side as if we're playing football or choosing our favorite basketball team with absolutely no research. And as I said, you got to get me past Genesis chapter 10, verse 3, because these are not the descendants of Jesus. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be protected, but they don't. I mean, let me say it this way. The children of Israel got in trouble all throughout the Bible. The book of Judges is nothing but a roller coaster ride of rising and falling. Why do they now get to do whatever they want? Because we're calling them the chosen people, which they are not. I'm not saying this, I'm certainly not bragging. I'm hurt by what's going on. But when people challenge me on YouTube, and I don't listen, I'm open to learn. You got something I don't know, I can be corrected. I don't have a problem with that. But once I lay out the totality of the situation, crickets. People don't deserve this. Now, this picture that's on the screen now was also in that longer video talking about the medical stuff that's going on. Look at it. Look at it. What's around it? Those are refugee tents. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, you see what? Refugee tents. What's in the middle? A crater from a bomb. And this has been going on. This was going on in northern Gaza. A refugee tents. People that have nothing to do with what's going on. And they placed a bomb right in the middle of innocent people. How do you, in your mind, get to a point where people have so little value that you can indiscriminately kill them? And it's okay. You're not bothered by it. Now, I've done some research in that area. There's a book called Ordinary Men. They just did a YouTube thing, and it's pretty amazing how people groupthink and other things like that will talk people into doing mass killings. But to devalue people to a point that this is okay. I mean, the videos I've watched, the grief. All right. Let's take care of a couple of other things that have been said. So Hamas from the beginning made the declaration that they would like to propose something in 3 phases that people that Israel has been holding for years would be released. And they would in turn release the hostages And also it would provide a way for them to rebuild. This is before it ever got as ugly as it is now. Before it ever got there. Because their point wasn't what you kept hearing on the news. They just hate Israel. No, they've been under an apartheid system since 1948. Person on the way from home from work, they just get arrested and nobody knows what happened, where they are, or anything. Hamas is saying, let them go. The hostages' families, and I put this up just so that you'll be able to find this article. The hostages' families are saying if Benjamin Netanyahu, if the prime minister wants to just sacrifice these people, just be honest with us. Under a deal brokered late November by the United States, Qatar, and Egypt, more than 100 of the estimated 240 hostages taken captive to Gaza during the attack by Hamas militants on 7th October were freed in exchange for the release of 240 Palestinians held in Israel prisons. Well, why can't we just keep going? We can't, because this is about building the David Ben-Gurion Canal. So Hamas said, if you're not going to do it, then we're not going to do it. But you keep hearing one side of this story. You have to step outside of this country and start looking at some of the news from other countries that have reputable information that can help you understand what's really going on. As I've stated to you before, started off that 62% of people had this figured out and protested what Israel was about to do to Gaza, to the Palestinians. Now that number's at 95%. And growing. And it's blowing up in our face because around the world we're looking bad because people can tell what the deal is. Well, let's finish this up. Here's a short video. I want to show you this and not talk much.
Because they want us, the Orthodox people here in Israel, to go to the Israeli army. They have one intention. They want us to be not religious. Therefore, we prefer to die. We don't mind going to prison. We prefer to die and not go to the Israeli army.
We have to wake up to the truth, beloved, that this is a major issue. And we need to pray for peace, because peace and a ceasefire will save lives. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. I'm Pastor Jackie Jackson. May the Lord bless you.